Hello and good morning. Yesterday I was in this park doing a quick recording of the memorial, but today I'm going in a different direction. I'm not going too far away from the park that I've been to. Let me just cross this road here. Rustlings Road is the road that Endcliffe Park is on. I'm going to literally this corner here, which is another park. It's known as Whiteley Woods and the Porter Valley. It's a city heritage park, but what I'm coming to see is what it says just underneath, Shepherd's Wheel. So let's go and have a look. Again, it's on a different side of town to where I am. It's probably about 5 or 6 miles away from where I live. So it is literally, the city centre is in between, and it's a busy park again, as you can see. It's the 23rd of April and it's 11:15 in the morning, and as you can see there are people strolling and there are joggers. Probably see them and hear them coming past, and you can see the white line in the middle of the path here. It's split between cyclists and walkers and joggers and what have you, and it seems to be quite civilized, as you can see, because there are no cyclists here and practically everybody is on the right side of the line. That's quite an interesting one. So I think I've got about 10 minutes worth of heading in this direction before I get to where I want to be. And I was told by the chap that I spoke to yesterday, a chap by the name of Duncan, who is the engineer that looks after the Shepherd's Wheel. He told me that I should pop over and get myself over for about 11 o'clock-ish. So I think I'll be on point for an 11 o'clock. That should be useful. I may stop for a coffee. There we go, look, cyclist. I may stop for a coffee, I may not. Let's just see how we go. But I want to get there first to get the location that I want to share with you done. That's the priority. Lots of dog walkers here today. It is a Sunday morning after all. Well, that's a bit unusual, but there you go.
So when I went to
running with the pram. So it's a nice big park. If you just look at the side here, the hills and the forest, all of the trees are huge. You can probably hear the running water on that side. The top of that hill is a lake, so it's quite a wide park. The length that I've just shown you from side to side is probably the length of the little park that I go into. It's quite the postage stamp compared to this. This is bigger than the park I went into yesterday, significantly bigger because it goes back for a few miles. I think it's about 2 miles that it goes back for. There we go, look. River runs through it. It meanders through quite nicely actually. So yeah, steady away. We'll keep going. This little motor cafe thing's been here for some time. Do coffees and teas and bakery products and what have you, which is quite nice for the guys in the park. Lovely little spot. It's a cool one today. A bit damp as well. Aftermath of rain. It may have been overnight rain, to be fair, because it was slightly warmer yesterday. But then again, I was here later in the day yesterday when I did my little bit of exploring. More runners again. There we go. Must be quite easy to navigate with that one. You'll probably hear the barking in the background. I think a couple of doggies have met. More river. These rivers are fed by a dam. It's quite a decent sized one, quite deep, but it's controlled, and I think the river area splits off into 2 or 3 bits, and it's all of the rivers around here are fed by it. So as you can see, it's opened up a little bit. It's narrowed actually at this point, because what you've got here on the other side of the river is private property. There are allotments, a huge number of them really. It's quite a large hill of allotments. It's never quiet in a wood. Bird song, river sound. That looks nice. Lots of people have allotments. They're keen on growing their own food. A little bit of white water there, as you can see. It is really nice. Another runner. She'll get out of the lady's way. A cyclist as well. Okay, now that they've passed, keep going. So I'm hoping this will last some time, this battery for the GoPro, because I charged it, and when I switched it on this morning we were at about 94%. Look at the hill there. You see all the roots? They look like snakes coming in and out, but they're the roots of the trees. That's nice. Amazingly, some of these trees, height-wise, excuse me, height-wise, these trees over here are lower than some of the bases, the trees at the top over there. Oh, that would be interesting. It looks good. It'd be nice in summer, it'd be really interesting in winter, especially places like this. I'm just looking again to see how that's recording. Seems to be going okay. So we're almost here, because it's just in the little distance over there. You'll probably see the board. And this is Shepherd's Wheel, which is what I've actually come to see. So it'll be a good test of the GoPro to see how it looks. That's the lady that passed me 10 minutes ago, running at some speed, which is good. That's the lady who passed me as we came in, walking at some speed, which is also good. So guys, here we are. So see Sheffield's knife grinding history brought to life. The Shepherd's Wheel. Okay, let's go have a look. Obviously there's a river here, and then the reason for the wheel being stationed here will become clear in a minute when we go around. You see the round discs in the wall? They're grinding wheels. Let's have a look around here. Something of a workshop. But this is the Shepherd's Wheel. You can have a look at that. Make it go up close. It's not a small affair. It's a very large wheel. And as you can see, it's controlled and fed above by the water hitting the troughs and the slats. And that moves the machinery inside. That axle down there in the middle, you can just about make out that it's moving something on the inside, I think. Okay, let's have a look. So this place has obviously been refurbed at some point. It was the Heritage Lottery Fund, which is a charitable fund that we have. It is a museum, a working museum. Here we go. Shepherd wheel, a water-powered grinding hull, last worked in the 1930s. This may be the Porter wheel recorded in a will dated in 1854, named after Mr. Shepherd, who employed 10 men here. 1794.
Hello.
Hello there. So it's at least the late 1500s that this thing was built, and you can probably tell by the style of the house. Just going to move back so you can see that roof, all the moss on the roof, and then let's have a look and go in. Here we go. Hello. I was talking to a chap yesterday by the name of Duncan.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Is he around?
He's here today. Yeah.
Is he here?
Yeah. He's probably taking a break.
Oh right,
He's been
okay.
doing some maintenance.
Yeah, he did say he was going to do that. I'm filming, by the way, just so you know.
All right. Okay.
I'm just doing some for YouTube, but I came in yesterday. I'd not seen it before,
Right.
and he was just talking to me about it.
Yeah.
And I seem to have stumbled onto doing sort of historic sites.
Yeah.
I've done a few churches. I did the cathedral on the inside, and then obviously I found this as I walked up, and it's just amazing. Sorry, go on.
The full stretch of the entire unit. The whole.
I haven't seen all of it. I've just been out that side and seen the wheel, and then just this bit as well.
Yeah. What I mean is the. Well, put it this way. When the water goes over the wheel,
Yes,
yeah,
yeah.
it drops into a fairly large deep hole.
Yes.
Yeah. If you compare that to where the river is,
But the river's much higher, isn't
the
it?
river's much higher.
Yeah.
So where does the water go?
Oh, okay. Is it going under the ground, something, or?
Yeah. This is the thing that people need to understand. It's not just about grinding. It's about
Yeah.
where and how you position a water wheel.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So, all right. Just go 20 yards down here.
Yeah, by all means, yeah. So yeah, actually, yeah, it makes sense because the wheel is big.
Yeah.
And obviously, it's only just slightly over head height from where we're stood.
Yeah.
And quite a lot of it is much lower down than this river.
Right. Here we are. Okay.
Oh, that is lower down.
So this only flows. There's only water in here when the wheel's working.
Ah,
But if you look, it's still quite a bit lower.
yeah, it is.
And if you follow it down,
Yeah.
it joins the river. Yeah.
Yeah,
And at that point, if you walk on another 50 yards,
yeah.
you've got what's called the head goit. This is a tail goit.
Right, okay.
Small canal. You've got the head goit for the next wheel, which was before Rustlings Road,
Ah, right, okay.
and runs off into there.
Yeah, yeah.
And the whole of the valley is like that. Yeah.
Yeah,
Just
yeah.
One after the
Yeah,
after the
yeah.
other. Because the next one further up
Yeah.
is just on the other side of the road.
Ah, okay, yeah, I did notice. I went up there, and it was much lower down at one side, one bit of it.
Yeah.
Ah,
So
is this
but
the
you
only
need-
surviving mill, though?
It's the only surviving water wheel running in
Yeah.
in Shepherd grinding workshop. I think water wheel grinding workshop. But you need a fairly fast flowing stream
Yes.
that's on a fairly big gradient to be able to get the water off.
Yeah.
Yeah. At a suitable height above it to
Got
give you
it.
power.
Yeah.
And
It's the weight of the water that's going to turn it, isn't it?
that-
Sure.
Yeah, it's water filling the buckets on
Yeah.
the wheel.
Yeah.
And that's the surveying problem.
Ah, okay.
And these rivers are ideal because the Porter drops something like 1,000 feet. Yeah, 300 meters in about 3 or 4 miles.
Wow, that's really good. That's quite the gradient, really.
But yeah, so it's,
After you, sorry. Yeah.
that's right.
Thank you.
Well, that's the thing people don't realise.
Yeah.
Is the whole unit is actually several hundred yards long.
Yes.
The whole,
Yeah.
if you like,
Yeah.
workshop.
To have it working, this is just the middle bit, isn't
Yeah.
it? Basically.
Yeah.
So these are the grinding wheels here, and then there's the
Yeah.
saddle there, isn't it?
This is the business end.
Yeah, yeah.
And these are soft sandstone. They're not the millstone grit.
Yeah,
That people
I've
see
seen the
quarried
millstone
up
grit.
on.
Yeah,
It's not. That's far too coarse.
yeah, yeah.
All right. These probably came from maybe Brincliffe Edge.
Right,
Maybe as far away as Wickersley and Rotherham.
right.
Because you need a fairly soft, even sandstone.
Yeah, yeah. Duncan was saying that yesterday. Yeah,
And then the secondary grinding process.
Yeah.
It's a wooden wheel with a leather strop.
ah, yes, of course. Yeah, yeah. Just on the other side of
It's
that.
soaked in I can't use like a glue or an oil.
Yeah, it did say it was rabbit.
Yeah.
Melted rabbit that
Melted rabbit.
they just fat that they
Silver
turned into glue.
sand in it, yeah.
Yeah, so this one is made of sort of a leather.
Yeah, it's got a leather strop
Yeah.
around the outside. It's a wooden wheel.
Right.
And the larger wooden wheels next door,
Yeah.
they're larger, so they rotate faster. Or at
Yes,
least
of course. Yeah.
Um, and,
So the one further over, the one with the duck just on the top of
Oh,
it,
yeah.
is that a sandstone one as well? 'Cause it's a
yeah,
different
yeah,
colour.
yeah. These are all sandstone. The third one along,
Yeah, the bigger one.
is a fairly new wheel.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah, okay.
Comparatively, yeah.
And it would take about 2 weeks of grinding 8 hours a day to get it down to that size.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, they go quite quickly
They
then,
go
don't they?
quite quickly. Yeah.
That's what happens with a soft stone, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, Duncan would say that, you know, when you've got all the wheels working here,
Yeah.
you probably wouldn't have been able to see across the other side of the room.
Because of the
Stuff, yes.
yeah, the
Although-
grit that
Although
comes
it's
up.
moist,
Yeah.
because the wheel's set in water,
Yeah.
and the boards are collecting quite a lot of it.
Ah, I see. That's what the boards did. Yeah, yeah.
It's still being thrown up. And if you was to touch a blade on there now, you'd get a column of sparks about 6, 8 foot in
Really?
the air. Yeah, even with at that speed.
And those are the blades there, aren't they? Yeah.
Yeah, those are representative of the blades, and that's some of the swarf. If
Oh,
you
the
feel
stuff that's
that,
come off.
yeah.
Hi, Duncan. How are you?
Blades
You all
each
right?
on.
Yeah.
Nice to see you. Oh wow. Okay. That's heavy, isn't it?
And
As
that's
well. Yeah.
what you're breathing.
Wow.
It's
Yeah, that's
metal,
just
metal
yeah.
flakes and
Right. And sandstone.
sandstone. Yeah. There was a small bit of that.
One bit of
Disappeared.
How are you this morning, Duncan? You're right.
a little tired. We were doing some repairs.
Oh, well, you did say yesterday. Yes.
Yeah, so I've managed to do them and it works. So
Oh,
I'm
right,
a bit
okay.
happier now.
Sure. No, I get that.
It's a bit
I'm recording,
pressurised.
by the way, just so you know. I told you I was going to do a recording of this.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just to let you know. As it gets to that, I'm recording just so.
Yeah.
I've just recorded my way in, just to sort of follow the park. I'm sorry I didn't get your name.
Neil.
Neil, thank you, Neil. I appreciate the information.
don't worry.
Neil just took me down to show me the side of the water
Tail
wheel
goit.
and how
Yeah,
it dips down. And it's the goit start, you said, didn't you?
That's a tail goit.
Tail goit, excuse me, tail goit.
And then you have a head goit that runs.
See, I've heard that phrase before, goit, because it's we've got places in Bradford, which is where I was originally from, called Goit Side.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what that was. That reminded me of that. So as you can see, there's the wheels. There's the leather straps that are there for a bigger wheel, and the bigger wheel's on an axle, as you can see there. And then if you look over to the far side, that wheel is connected to the other bigger wheel, which is turning from the small one there. Now, if you look at the biggest wheel, it's going quite slow, but the little one has got less cogs, so it's turning the wheel faster. And you can just about make out outside the water wheel itself that we started looking at. Now, Duncan was telling me that on this side here, what you have effectively is a saddle, and that's this bit here. And that saddle, on one side, which is on this side, you would have like father who would polish and grind down the blades, which are down here. I don't know if you can just quite make those out there. And he would do all the work there, but that stone's quite rough. It is sandstone, it is a soft type of stone, but it's quite rough in the sense that it would mark the metal and tarnish the metal a little bit and scratch the metal. Whereas when he passed it over to his son on this side, which is this little one here, just behind that plank of wood, what you'd get is that one was a leather bound one that Neil was telling us about, and it would smooth out all of the scratches, and you would get a polished blade in the end. And then over here, I can just show you this very quickly. I'm just going to pick this up for a second. These are the kinds of blades that they used to make. So you used to have the bigger ones, the smaller blades. These are all made in places like that. I'll just pop that back. That's the leather strapping that you'd get. This looks to be the kind of strapping that holds the thing together for the wheels. And the belts that are over here, because it's obviously belt driven and water driven. Now, I'm going to ask Duncan again how old this is when he gets a chance to pop back in. Duncan, how old is the place?
We think it was built in about 1560.
Right.
First records are 1594.
Ah, so okay.
And it was sold to a guy from Stumperlow called William Bayton.
Right, okay.
And so that's, most of our records are from sales, bills of sales.
Ah, right, okay,
things
sure,
like
yeah,
that.
yeah.
So down the 450 odd years,
Yeah.
that's how we know what's happened to it. So there were times when it wasn't working and it was down completely, maybe
Right.
for repairs to the wheel for a year or so, and
Right.
then back up again.
Oh, okay.
So how it worked was Lord Shrewsbury owned the valley.
Ah, I know that name, yes.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
And Mr. Shepherd paid Lord Shrewsbury ground rent.
Yes, yeah, sure.
And water extraction rights.
Right, okay,
And that's
yeah, yeah.
called water abstraction.
Yeah.
And you have to have a license for that, and
Right.
he would have paid that. And then all the grinders were individually self-employed,
Oh, okay.
and they
So was that piecework then for them?
yeah.
Oh.
So they would come here, and Mr. Shepherd would have assessed them
Yeah,
and gone, yep, I'm quite happy to have you for a grinder here. It costs you this much. Made an agreement.
yeah.
And when they came, all there was a trough. There weren't
Yeah.
any stones or seats or anything.
Right, okay.
And they always brought their own seats, their own stones,
Oh,
their own axles,
okay.
everything. And so what they were really doing was just buying power.
Ah,
Shepherd.
right, got you. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And the reason they didn't come to stuff that was already there is when you finally come of age at 21 and are allowed to go onto grindstone,
Mm.
you've got to have a seat that you're going to sit on for the rest of your life.
Yes,
So you get basically a large piece of oak and you carve your own seat.
got you.
So
Got,
it
yeah,
fits
yeah,
you.
yeah, yeah.
But then also it's that dangerous a profession.
Yeah,
I mean, these stones are revolving around about 500 times a minute.
right.
And the stones quarried from a quarry,
Yeah,
sandstone,
sure.
so it's
Yeah.
very soft. It quite often there were hairline cracks in it, and then
You were saying, yeah.
and it would explode, you
Right,
know,
yeah.
at that speed when your knife hit it. So what they would do is find a quarryman who was
Yeah.
really good,
Yeah.
and they would stick with that
With that
quarryman.
quarryman, right.
And so they wouldn't use anybody else's stones.
Just
because
his.
they knew it was tried and tested by their quarryman
Yeah,
who
got
cut
you.
the stones
Yeah,
out.
yeah.
And they always went back to that guy.
Yeah.
You know, and I mean, you can never be absolutely perfectly fail
This is how you
safe.
build your reputation, don't you, as
Yeah.
craftsmen? That's how it works, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So if they were there, does that mean that they were literally, Mr. Shepherd would have made his money on the rent that he charged them to use the power
Yeah.
here?
He would have supplemented his income. He
Right.
was a pocket knife maker by trade.
Ah, okay.
So he used a small stone, like the one at the very back, to grind his knives on. So that's only a what we call a 4-inch stone, 4-inch wide.
Right. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Right. The
for
very
his
back. Got you.
blades. And then on top of that, he would be getting rents from all these guys.
Ah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So
So-
that's it. Yeah.
Yeah. So when
And then they made their money by making their blades for whomever.
yeah.
All right, and selling their blades.
They
right.
were very canny, so they would get a relationship going with a good bladesmith
Yeah.
who
yeah.
didn't leave a lot of hammer marks in the
Yeah.
blades.
Sure. Sure. Yeah.
And then they had less grinding to do.
Yeah. Got
But
you.
conversely, the bladesmith would be looking for a really good grinder
Yeah.
who made his blades absolutely beautifully sharp, even on both sides.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that was quite
So-
a skill.
So I'm just trying to get the process understood. What they would do is these guys who would have their own blades and have their own blades done, would they be subcontracted out by a blades? The other chap that you talked about, the guy who did the hammering of the blades or the making of them, or are they selling their blades back to them? Do you see what I mean? You
No,
tell me.
they would be brought here,
Yeah.
and so the bladesmith would get
Yeah.
an order from a merchant
Yes.
who may have come up from London, from
Right.
a fancy shop or Birmingham.
Sure, yeah.
And then they would say we need 8 cantines of cutlery or 20 cantines of cutlery, and
Yeah.
his job would be then to source the forks, the spoons, the teaspoons,
Got you.
the blades. He would make the blades and hammer the blades out himself.
Right, okay.
He would then get his apprentice
Yeah.
to bring a cart up
to here.
maybe probably 2 or 3 gross, so you're looking at maybe 400 or 500 blades coming up here,
Right, okay.
all in trays in the car.
Sure.
They've been delivered here. He hasn't sold them on or anything.
Yeah.
What he's done is agreed a price for each blade
Got you.
with the grinder.
Yeah, yeah.
And then the grinder would initially have done a sample for him
To say this is my work standard.
skill,
Yeah, sure.
and then he would get going.
Right.
So, and the skill of a very good grinder is to be able to grind on a flat skill. So the skill of a grinder is you can't actually see what you're doing most of the time. So this is for a filleting knife,
Yeah,
and you'd put the tang where the handle is in
sure.
here.
Yeah,
Blade sits on here.
yeah.
So they're grinding like this.
Ah, okay, I've got you.
So they
it's-
can't
it's
actually
by
see
feel,
what they're
isn't
doing.
it? Yeah.
So when you initially put your blade in and start grinding, it's doing this
Yeah,
because it's grinding the bumps off
Sure.
from the hammering.
yeah, yeah.
And then it gently smooths out, and then they rock it like this, so you're not
Yeah.
putting a series of lines on the blade.
Got you.
It's
Yeah.
smooth all the way up.
Mm.
But then they're listening to the pitch. As the blade gets thinner, the pitch gets higher.
Yes, got you. Yeah. So because there'll be a lot of noise, of course. Yeah, yeah.
So they barely look at it. I mean,
Yeah.
occasionally they just flip it over, see whether that side's done, back again,
Yeah.
like that. And then when they're ready to turn it over, they go round like that, flip the blade the other way,
Ah,
do it
got
the
you.
other side,
Okay.
like that.
Oh.
So all of these were for different types of blades.
Yeah.
How do you take the tang off?
Sorry?
How do you take the tang off? Because
Take the tang off.
yeah,
Well,
so I presume that
yeah, you grind that off.
that's
yeah.
just
ground off.
just ground
Yeah.
off in the same
Yeah,
way.
and then
yeah.
make it into a heart shape, just
Yeah.
so they round the edges
Yeah.
off.
Yeah.
So that that's pocket knife. So you need it to fold into the
Sure. Yeah.
handle.
Yeah. That like
So
that. Yeah. That's the finished.
That's the finished.
So those are the stages it goes through,
Yeah.
basically, aren't
Yeah.
they?
So that's what it comes in like.
Yeah.
That's why basically the grinders didn't like a lot of light.
Yeah.
Because as soon as they start grinding, it becomes very shiny.
Yeah.
And reflects in their eyes.
Yeah.
So they hated a lot of light.
Right. Okay. Because you can't get to just view it properly because it's just reflecting off quite a
Yeah.
lot, isn't it? And you said that these windows weren't here; they were just open to the
Just
elements.
open. Yeah. I mean the whole idea was you've got a hill out there.
Yeah.
You've got a single large window here. The idea is to get big draft coming through.
And it blows everything out. Yeah. All right. Okay. All of the
Dust
the dust and the
swarf
yeah.
and
Sure.
stuff like that. So
And that's the swarf there,
Well,
isn't it? Yeah.
looking at how much there is on there.
Yeah.
It's all clear.
Well, it makes you wonder how much actually blew off as well, considering that's how much is caught and how big the plume would be.
the best way to gauge it is a new grindstone would be this big. And
Right.
From where my hand is
Wow.
down to there,
Yeah.
2.5 weeks.
Wow.
And one of those new stones would cost them about a third a week's wages.
Wow.
But for another worker, skilled worker in Sheffield, it cost them all the wages.
Yeah. No, I
So
get you.
these guys could earn enough to...
Yeah, sure, yeah. Well, they'll have a contract rate as well, won't they? Because it's one of those where if you're going to get regularly going to get this stuff, then it makes sense for somebody to say, well, oh, I'll charge you less because you're going to have one every 2 weeks. It's a regular income again, isn't it?
Yeah. And these grinders knew that these, particularly the table knives, were going into silver cutlery,
Yeah.
so they could command a high price.
Yeah, sure,
Because
yeah.
they wanted the best blades you could get.
Yeah, yeah. Well, this is where Sheffield Steel has its has got its reputation, I suppose, and cutlery, the reputation for the cutlers and what have you as well.
So by grinding the blades, they were making them sharp but putting a lot of scratches in.
Yeah.
So what they would do is then
Move it over to this
move
one
it over
here.
to this one, which
Yeah.
is a wooden wheel,
Yeah.
leather bands around it,
Yeah.
and they'd make their own glue, rabbit skin glue,
Yeah.
and they'd render it in the pots over here.
Oh, right. Okay. So this literally was for making the glue for the for the
fire
leather.
was more important for doing things like glue making and stuff like that. So you have like an equivalent of a bain-marie, I guess. But
Yeah.
two pots, one inside the other. Put water in that one.
Right.
You scrape the inside of the rabbit skin,
Yeah.
pop it in there, hang it over the fire, render it
Melt
down,
it
make
down,
it very
yeah.
sticky. So then what they do is, so this is one of those wooden wheels.
Oh, right,
So
okay.
this is what the boys would be working on.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so the apprentices, when they start here, would be making new leather belts,
Got you.
nailing
Yeah.
them on,
Yeah.
putting the glue on,
Yeah.
and then rolling it in a graded grit.
Oh, I remember you
So
said
if
that.
you
Yeah.
feel
Yeah.
that, you can feel
Ah,
the
yes.
abrasiveness.
Yeah, it is abrasive,
That's
yeah.
to take all the lines out.
Yeah, yeah.
People said silver sand.
It varied, yes.
Yeah.
Sometimes it was silver sand, sometimes it was just the used sand on the...
On here, because you'll get a lot of that, wouldn't you, basically, yeah.
So they also had, they understood wheel balancing years ago.
Yeah.
So they used to put hammer lead weights
Into
just
the,
to
yeah,
stop
just,
it wobbling.
just to
as
stop
it
the
went
wobble, yeah,
round.
exactly, yeah.
Um,
That's like 400 years or 300 years before the car, basically.
before the car, yeah.
That's amazing.
So they put the final stage was they take it next door.
Yeah.
So when the young lad, who would be about 14 or 15 on the
Yeah.
wooden drum behind,
Yeah.
had finished his job, he'd take them through here.
Okay.
And they bring them onto one of these
Oh, okay.
larger wooden wheels.
Oh, okay, yes.
And it was the
yeah.
same idea again. There was a leather band going round it.
Yeah.
And what they would do is put, they'd have a bowl and they'd mix mutton fat and chalk.
Right.
And they'd make it like a paste and spread it over the
Yeah.
leather. And basically that acted as a polishing
It's got to
medium.
be, yeah, it would
So
be a
it's like
polish.
toothpaste
Yeah,
equivalent of
yeah.
it.
It makes me think. It made me think of, when you say it, it makes me think of things like Brasso.
Yeah.
You know, that sort of stuff,
Yeah.
which is very similar sort of idea. It's like a paste, isn't it?
And in those days, you've got to remember it was only the very rich who had a high polish on their
Yeah.
colour.
No, I get
So
you.
they would be getting a silky finish off of this.
Yeah.
And then only the very rich would then be doing the high polish, or getting a high polish
Yeah.
for their colour, and that would be done with ferric oxide.
Right.
It's called rouge.
Rouge,
But
okay.
that wouldn't have been done here. That would have been done in a separate workshop.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Very clean workshop. Yeah.
So
they
this one actually goes through from the wheel over that way, the one that we were just looking at, because the axle just follows all the way through, and then you've got these. They're almost like big wooden barrels, aren't they, in terms of what they look like?
Yes, it's all about speeding it up.
Yeah, yeah.
So-
That's quite fast, obviously, because of the size between them.
Yeah.
And that spins that one there, which is that another leather one, and another sandstone one? Is that or are they?
That's a sandstone one.
Yeah.
And this is a much more modern one, where this was put in right at the very end of the place's life.
Right.
So this was probably put in 1920, and it's a modern.
Right. So it's 100 years
composite
old.
stone.
Right. So it's 100 years
yeah,
old for a modern.
Yeah, it's modern.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a special way. When you're wandering around Sheffield, if you see these stones around,
Yeah.
they've got a square hole in them.
Yeah.
That was put on a square shaft.
Okay.
And that's before they developed
Spindles.
spindles and threads.
Got you. Yeah.
So they date, the ones with the square holes date 1600s to 1700s.
Oh, I see. Okay.
And
Yeah.
then the round ones are after that. So
Ah,
sort
yeah.
of late
So they're later.
1700s.
Okay.
1800s. But that is one of the very first man-made stones.
Ah. Okay.
So it's carborundum and resin
Yep.
put together.
And that's compared to the sort of standard size. How big is the sandstone one that we're looking at there? The one further over. That one
That's
there.
pretty good. I mean, you see the one at the back?
Yes.
That's close to being new.
Ah, right. Okay. Yes.
So that's about the
So
size
it's not
of
far
knife
off, then,
grinder
is it?
use.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And in 2 weeks, it went down to the size of the one in the other room.
Yeah, they
Wow.
would go. What they would do is they'd wait till it got about an inch above the rim of the steel plate.
Yes.
It's the rusty steel plate.
Yeah.
And what they would then do is use a small grinding wheel,
Yeah.
like a steel grinding wheel, and they'd put 4 score marks on it when it was down to sort of this size.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they bought these. They cost in about 1820. They cost about 2 and 6pence, which is a sort of week's wages for a normal worker.
Yeah. Yeah.
They would then sell the one with the score lines on it
Yeah.
to a razor grinder.
Ah, okay. So there's a life still in it. Yeah.
Yeah. So what they do they would buy the stone for 2 and 6pence. They'd
Yeah.
sell it on for 2 and 9pence.
Right. So they could profit out the stone as well.
make profit
Brilliant.
out of the stone.
Yeah.
The reason for that was the razor grinders always go for one of these stones.
Yeah.
Because it's been trued, tested.
Yeah.
They knew there was less likely to get an explosion
Yeah,
from it or
yeah,
anything like that.
yeah.
And then also they knew they could get, because the knife grinder put the marks on it.
They've got
they
4
got
different trails. Yeah.
4 different
4
stones.
times the life, basically. Yeah.
So this is the old open razors, or what some people call cutthroat razors.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
And what
yeah.
they were trying to do is get that inside curve.
Yes. Yeah.
So what they would do is get one of these very thin stones, smooth it into a curve
Yeah.
like that, so they could run the razor up
Ah,
and down
got
it, and
you.
get a hollow grind. That's what
Yeah.
they called it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
But these guys had a rough life, and they
I'm sure.
they
I'm
couldn't even
sure.
get away from it in death. If you look at this one here, there's a big stone at the back.
Yes.
That's a gravestone of a grinder.
Ah. So they used
Yeah.
an actual stone for his gravestone.
Yeah, yeah. they would buy an uncut stone, so it hasn't got a hole in it at
Yeah.
this stage, and that dates from 1713
Wow.
and was given to us when they dug up the graveyard of St Paul's Church, which is now the Peace Gardens.
Oh, when they deconsecrated the ground and
Yeah.
everything. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, and brought it to us.
Right. So
They
there,
could-
next to it, you've got the square hole that you were talking
That's
about.
right, yeah.
And that's the older. That's the
That's
older
the older
stuff.
type stone.
And then the newer one is
Yeah.
down here. Yeah. I'll just turn that down slightly so you can see that. So that's the newer one there, and obviously the one with the square hole there is the older one.
Yeah.
It's crazy really to think how difficult the circumstances. I went to Barnsley, and there was a mine there, it's a mine shaft that's sort of a heritage site. It was one of the scene of one of the biggest mine disasters. It was in the 1830s, and 300 people were killed. This was just before the one in Wales. Well, the one in Wales was in the 1920s,
Yes.
but this was quite a long time before that. And they preserved that mine shaft just to give you a look at it, and that's tough. But this is no easier, is it? It's no easier.
No, I think, sort of working lives
Yeah.
in those days.
It's tough, yeah,
It
yeah.
was tough for everybody pretty
Yeah.
much, whether you're in a cotton mill, whether you're in mine,
Yeah.
whether you're in one of these places.
I mean, I'm here now, and these windows are open.
Yeah.
They've just got the bars on, they're open to the elements, and I can feel the breeze. I'm cold. I've got my hands in my pockets, and thankfully I've got my GoPro mounted so I can do this. But what would it have been like for these guys in winter as well?
Terrible. I mean,
Yeah.
when it snows, you can see the snow filtering through the tiles.
Right.
So it's like a fine powder coming
Yeah,
through the tiles.
yeah.
So they would be in that. But they,
Yeah.
I mean, they wore felt trousers.
Ah,
and
the
felt
warm stuff.
jackets
Yeah,
and
yeah,
stuff
yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
But they kept working hard.
Yeah.
So that kept them warm, if anything.
Yeah, yeah.
But they did have problems with the cold because it's water grinding.
Yes.
Um,
You get freezing at some point, don't you?
Well, the water would freeze.
Yeah.
So you didn't ever let your water freeze because your stone's sitting in it.
Yeah.
So that water would then expand in ice and crack the stone.
Yes, of course. Yeah, yeah.
So
Puts
what
a lot
they
of
used to
pressure
do
on
was
it,
the old
doesn't
stone on the rope trick. They they pour water into it, but only just to the bottom of the wheel,
it? Got you.
and then have a stone on a rope, drop it in, and that would raise the level.
Ah, okay.
And
Yeah.
then at the end of the day, they would pull the stone out,
Yeah.
and it would
Go
drop
back
the level.
underneath the
Yeah,
level of
yeah.
the stone. Yeah. Okay.
The problem is there were two problems really. That was the stone breaking like that.
Yeah.
But also, if you just leave it sitting in water, the top half would dry out, the bottom half would be very wet.
Yeah.
And then
It
when you
changes the
spin it
shape.
over,
Yeah.
it's heavier at the bottom and it jumps out of the bearings.
Ah, yeah. Okay.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
But these stones here are quite interesting. These ones here, you see them?
Yeah, the
These
ones
are
with the
lines
grooves.
on.
Yeah, yeah.
That's for saw grinding.
Oh, okay.
So in the old days, they didn't have machines.
Yeah.
Sort of 1700s, 1800s, early
Yeah.
1800s. They didn't have machines that could clip the blade teeth out
Yeah.
for the saw. So you can see a saw here.
Yeah.
You can see the blanks behind it without any teeth.
Yes. Yeah.
So what they would do is force the saw down,
Yeah.
cut out the basic teeth,
Yep.
move the saw along, match it up with the last tooth down again.
And then do it again. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And these ones are for gouge grinding.
Right,
So
okay.
wood turning gouges and stuff
Right,
like
okay.
that. They're being cast
Ah, right.
from
Okay.
steel. So
Yeah,
when they
sure.
come out of the castings, they're quite rough.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you need to smooth them out. So
It's like
that's what you
feckling,
do.
isn't it? Basically. Yeah. Wow. So what's this bigger one here?
That's the same as the one over here where we do the whitening.
Ah,
they call
yes,
it, or
yeah,
whitening,
yeah.
where they do the polishing.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's another polishing wheel.
Yeah. You can see they're quite cleverly made. They're made out of segments, like an arm.
Yeah,
You're going
yeah.
round,
Almost like keystones, aren't they?
Yeah.
For arches.
Yeah.
And then they've obviously got a little bit of weight on that one as well. You can just see the little bit that they've got on it there.
But when they were stuck for money, they wouldn't just do knife blades, they do scissor
Yeah.
grinding as well. Anything they could find, really.
Yeah.
Particularly towards the end of its life. Because
Some really fine blades there as well, isn't there? Really.
Yeah, very fine.
Wow. And when did it stop being a working mill?
There's quite a famous controversy that this place came to the attention of the Houses of Parliament.
Really?
What happened
Okay.
there was a Factory Act in the 1860s which said basically belts had to be covered,
Yeah.
and this place had never had. You couldn't.
You can't do that.
you
It's
couldn't
very
do it.
difficult to do. Yeah. Yeah.
And so that council finally decided that they had to close the place
Really?
because it was too dangerous.
Yeah.
And this was this is in the early 1900s. This was already becoming a park.
Sure. Got
So
it. Yeah.
because Queen Victoria said they really
Yeah.
had to have a park.
Yeah. That was Endcliffe, isn't it? That's
Yeah.
Endcliffe. And were they trying to do the same with this area as well?
Yeah.
Is that
So
what it was?
the whole thing right.
Oh,
on
right.
that.
Okay. Yeah.
So they raised about £500, I think, to actually demolish the place, close it down, knock it down.
Okay, and get rid of it. Yeah.
And they decided that anyway, there was a chap walking up the path here who actually turned out to be an ex-master cutler,
Oh, I see. Okay.
and he spotted the fact that it was being closed and all the rest of it. And he said, well, look, you know, this is now virtually a museum anyway.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the last guys who are working here, we need to keep them working and
Yeah.
have it as you know, part
A
of the
working-
heritage
yeah,
of Sheffield.
yeah, absolutely,
So he
yeah.
then took it to the local MP, who took it to the Houses of Parliament.
And said, save it. Yeah.
Yeah,
Keep
and
it.
they said, we'll make an exception
Yeah.
in this one case that you don't need
Mm.
fencing or covers for your belts.
Right.
So it lasted in the end till about 1933
Wow.
and closed then. So I think it worked pretty much continuously, probably 1570
Right.
through to 1930, which is what amazes me.
Yeah.
I mean, you think these men worked through plague, through civil war, you know,
Yeah.
kept on
It's
coming here.
350 years you're talking about, isn't it? Yeah.
And yeah, they
In fact, America was a colony.
yes, yeah, that's it.
Interrupt for 1 second. Are these powered by the water?
Yeah, so the
That's
water
all I
wheel's
wanted.
outside there. If you
I've
go
seen
around
the
that way,
water. Yes, I've
yeah.
seen the water. We've never actually walked in here, which is shameful for us. Great, isn't it?
It
Sorry
is.
to interrupt.
No, not at all. That's fine. It's all right. So 1930s, yeah, that's 350
Yeah.
years.
So what we've tried to do is keep it exactly as it was when they walked out in the 30s.
Got you. Yeah. Yeah.
So our restoration,
Which is not much different as it was in the 1500s
No,
either. To be
no,
fair,
the layout
there's
is
not
exactly-
much. There's not much more you need to do with it.
No.
You know, over that course, except maybe change the grade of the wheel, like you said. It's quite an amazing place to see.
but most of them died of silicosis, breathing the dust in.
Yeah, that's the thing. I was thinking something like, the emphysema silicosis type thing would do it, which is exactly what miners used to get with their dust as well when they were digging and what have you as well. And you hear it a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But actually Sheffield helped the advance of autopsies
Right.
because of the grinders.
Ah, I see,
Because
okay.
they were trying to find out why the grinders were dying
Yeah.
so young.
Yeah.
And a fork grinder would be dying usually before he was about 26, 25,
Really?
26, because they were grinding in the prongs of forks.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And you need a very fine stone with very fine dust. It just
Yeah.
created a paste in the lungs.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whereas knife grinders, you have a heavier
Yeah.
grip.
Yeah. It's a heavier guy. I
yeah,
get that.
so
So it's
you-
not floating around as much either, is it?
No,
So yeah.
their average lifespan could be anywhere between 36, 37 to about mid-40s.
Right. Okay. Which was not considered too unusual at the time, really. To be
No,
honest.
not really. Yeah, your average
Not-
life expectancy at that time was, for a working person, would be about 50 probably.
Yeah.
so.
Yeah.
But most of them had very bad chest problems.
Yeah.
They
Sure.
also had by the time they'd finished or getting to the end of their lives, they were getting hearing
Arthritis,
problems,
yeah.
Arthritis, white
Yeah,
finger,
yeah.
and they were also going blind
Yeah.
because
The
all the
great
glare
ones.
in their eyes, and then also they used to get what they called moits in their eyes, sparks,
Yeah. Yeah.
and they never wore eye protection because it's water grinding, you just have water running down the glass.
Yeah. 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 Sure.
So
You
when
wouldn't get to see
glasses
anything at
finally
all.
did come in, you didn't use them.
Yeah.
And they didn't like wearing any masks because you're working that hard, it's like running a marathon.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
you're sweating like crazy, aren't you? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
How are
so-
you going to wear a mask?
Yeah, you wouldn't. So, I mean, so there's lots of tales of them ex-grinders in pubs shouting at each other across the table because they
Yeah,
couldn't
because
hear each
you
other.
can't hear each other or see each other for that
Yeah,
matter. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
It's unimaginable life, isn't it?
Yeah.
It really is. By modern standards, it's absolutely.
It's quite I mean, it's a part of Sheffield heritage.
Yeah,
But there's,
absolutely, yeah.
A story that the grind, and it's true. The grinders, when they got a moit in their eye, a spark in their eye,
Yeah.
it's a piece of metal.
Yeah. Yeah.
You need to get it hot. You've got to get it out really quickly. Well, your hands are filthy.
Yeah.
So you don't stick your finger in your eye. What they do is get another grinder to lick it out.
Yes. Yeah.
So,
Do you know that's actually my partner is from sort of the northwest frontier.
Yeah.
That's how they used to do it. If you've got anything in your eye, you know, especially when they're harvesting.
Yeah, yeah.
If they're harvesting and threshing,
Oh, wow.
and you've got anything in your eye, the first thing they do is they get their mate to lick their eye and literally get hold of it and just take it out that way, and it works. It really works.
Well, it's quite clever, really.
Yeah,
isn't
it is.
it?
To realise you've got a little bit of natural suction there, it's just it's quite bizarre, but yes.
And they also knew that the saliva in your mouth would cool it down really quickly.
Yeah.
And they were quite clever. They even knew it was slightly antiseptic.
Exactly. Yeah, that was what I was going to say. Yeah, it's got an antiseptic quality to it as well.
So very clever people.
Definitely.
But I love just the way the thing works.
Yeah.
I mean, they knew all the woods to use.
Yeah, definitely.
So those sticks.
There's a lot of engineering in it,
Yeah,
isn't there?
there
There's a lot of engineering in it, and to get it up and running. Look, Duncan, thank you. I really appreciate that. Thank you very much. I really appreciate your time and the information, because it's eye-opening.
It's a special place.
It is, and you know, I only discovered it yesterday. I had to come back today, and I'll be back again. As I said, one of my friends is down. He looks after the Miamigo site, so
Yeah.
I haven't been round to this side of town much. I've done the other side, but yeah. I've really enjoyed that. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. Once again, cheers. Thank you. Okay, guys, there you have it. That was Duncan. He's the main engineer who looks after the upkeep of this place, and has done for some time. And as you see, he's extremely knowledgeable in terms of how it works. Let me just show you this very quickly. Just on here, if I can get a little bit of a close-up there. That's what it would have looked like when they were in. That's the other side. That's probably the bit that we were looking at, but from the other side. And then this is the workers themselves, who had a very short life expectancy. And you can see the young children there as well. Okay guys, I'm going to go over. I think what I'll do is I'll pop back down and get myself a quick cup of coffee, and then I'll call that a day for this one, and get myself a quick cuppa, and then we'll crack on from there. I'll go over and see my friend Tony. So that was the Goit Start, they called, isn't it? No, it's further down actually. It's on the other side. This is the normal river, and on the other side it's deeper. So that went down about the other side, the Goit Start, or the Goit Tail he called it. That went down, that was down about 6 or 7 feet below my feet. And this one is literally 2 feet down. So there's a good 5 foot difference between the river here and the Goit on the other side. I'm trying to remember what Goit meant. I think it's like, it means something like snicket or channel, or that sort of thing, where you've got an area, a small area between two places. So it might literally be that it's been dug down between the two spots, and that's why it's called the Goit. And this is the hill that he was talking about, all the allotments I was telling you about. That's the hill where the breeze would come off and blow through towards where you can see the people there. And this trail, as he said, as Neil said, had 5 or 6 of them designed the same way. So this Shepherd's Wheel isn't just the house that's over there. It actually runs down right the way up to where the two rivers join. So it's a good 500 meters or so. See, we're coming up to a bridge here where that lady stood. We're coming up to a bridge here, and there's also a little bridge there as well. And as you can see, there we go, look, it's starting to dip. You've got the river here, it's starting to dip. This may well have been sort of artificially channeled in order to get them working in a situation where you could use the river properly in order to get what you needed to get done. And then suddenly what you've got on this side, that channel, which is slow moving on the far side there, that's the bit that's coming off the wheel. And then you've got the bit in the foreground here, which is the river itself, and they join together just there. It goes down a little way, and then by the time you get further down, the next one's starting. So I'm going to move towards the middle here, just get out of the way of the folks that are coming and going and doing the running. And yeah, as he said, it's become a park. So that place ran for about 360 years. Let's get that into perspective. 1590s, 1570s, 1580s, around that time, late 1500s. Well, the War of Independence for America was 1776, and the I'm trying to think back of times and things now. I don't know how long it was between the War of the Roses and those sorts of things. I may have to get my phone out and Google it. But well over the lives of a number of kings and queens. Let me just do a little Google to find out. Here we go. Coming to the coffee shop. I'll have a hot coffee, I think. Okay. So in the 1590s, James I was the king, son of Queen Mary, Queen of Scots, and descended from Henry VII's daughter Margaret. He had become the King of Scotland for 36 years before he became the King of England. So James I was king when this started running. I think that's the James I for the James I Bible as well, actually, or the King James Bible. Let's put it that way. That's how old it was. It was running, and people were working on it at that time. So here we are at the Motor Cafe. I'm going to get myself a hot cup of coffee because it is a cold day, and that will be a nice finish to my day. Let's have a look.
Hi guys,
Yeah, just because they're nice, calm parents, and it means that they're coming from good stock. Because you know these
Not mine. I've not ordered yet. I'm going to.
The reputation that some people aggressive. So there are really lovely ones, and there are other people that just come from. But as long as you've got a nice life.
Oh, sorry. I'm coming here to order. Sorry. That was me being a bit thick. Could I have an Americano, please?
Yeah, is that black
I'll do
or
it in
white?
cash if that's
Yeah,
all right.
that's perfect.
Thank you.
There you go.
Thank you.
Thank you. Black, did you say? Sorry.
White, please.
Two hips of flat white. 2 hips of flat white.
Thank you. That's
Sorry.
nice. Thanks a lot. See you soon.
Here's that sky.
Hello. Could I get a flat white and 3 large?
Anything else for you?
Rather than
And they're small.
Just ask one.
Very strong.
So you got
yeah, they do, although not as strong as.
And they're very gentle.
anyone ready to order?
Yep. We have 3 Americanos, please.
3.
Yeah. What, do they want those like?
I like it with cold milk.
Yeah.
They want cold milk with cold milk.
Does one want fur milk or? Or just straight Americano then with milk in.
Americano?
Mine was yes, please. Yeah. Thank you.
There you are. Another Americano. That's Americano.
Oh, that's a strong, hot cup of coffee. In fact, it's piping hot. Absolutely piping hot cup of coffee there. So guys, I think I'm going to leave it on that one. Bearing in mind the difficulties that people went through in order to make a living in those times, and the history of it. I want to finish with a coffee because I'm freezing. So how would it have been? It's late April. I wonder how it would have been winter, November, December, January. Oof, it was cold for us in January just to walk in. So how would it have been for those people to work in? It was just horrendous conditions, and with such a low life expectancy. I suppose it makes you thankful for the blessings that you've got and the life we've got now. Okay guys, I'm going to leave it there. So thanks a lot for listening, and hopefully I'll see you on the next one. Bye for now.